Hello everyone, Nernstorm here, and today I'm going to show you my new Magicka Dragonite PvP build for the Wrathstone patch. This build is very similar in its core to the build we used to run in the Murkmire patch. However, it has some slight alterations, and that together with the new racial passives make this build really fun and a lot more efficient than the build we had last patch. So let's jump right into it, starting up with our stats. So do remember, these stats are unbuffed. They do get somewhat better when we start fighting, but let's go over them very quickly. We now have a 31k max Magicka, a little bit more than we had last patch. We have 29k max health. It actually goes down by 2k because we currently have Emperorship buff. But without it, it's at about 27k health overall. Our max stamina is really huge. It got so buffed in this last patch, and we now have 19k max stam. Really fantastic. Our spell damage is at 3.5k unbuffed. Once it is buffed, it gets to 4.5k spell damage. This is by far the most damaging build that I've had in a very long time. As for our recoveries, if we use our Tri-Stat Potion, we get to 1.6k almost Magicka recovery and 800 stamina recovery. Health recovery doesn't really matter, we don't rely on it at all, but these are some great recoveries. When your potion is not up, your Magicka recovery is at about 1.3k, but your potion can be up at any time. If you have the alchemy passives, your potion will never be off of cooldown, and even without it, 1.3k seems like more than enough to me. Next, for our resistances, if we go to our back bar and we buff ourselves up real quick, you can see we have 20k physical resistance as well as 24k spell resistance, which is pretty huge, and it gets buffed by quite a bit with Blood Spawn. We will get to that point in a moment. Critical resist is at 3k as well, and our spell pen unbuffed is at 7.2k, and it gets quite higher. Next to our sets, we are using, like last patch, 5 light pieces and 2 heavy ones on our big pieces. The reason we're not using 1 medium piece is because I don't feel like we need that. We don't need the extra we get from the Undaunted passive, because it only gives us a little bit of percentage to our max stats, and since we don't really care about our max stats value in this build, but more about our spell damage for our overall damage output, we don't really need the extra little bit of Magicka and the extra little bit of stamina. It doesn't give us that much, and I'd rather have a little bit more resistance with the 2 heavy pieces. So, to our sets, we are using 2 Blood Spawn pieces. Blood Spawn is a great set, a little bit of stamina recovery, but its main point is it gives you 14 ultimate every 6 seconds, and it buffs your physical and spell resistance by 6.5k. So if we look back at our stats, when we are buffed up, that means we get to over 26k physical resistance and over 30k spell resistance overall. It is pretty good resistances, considering as we're using light armor. In addition to that, Blood Spawn has a 6 seconds cooldown and is up for 6 seconds. So the uptime on it is really huge if you take a lot of damage, for example when we're fighting in outnumbered scenarios or have a lot of dots on you. Next, we are using Rattle Cage. It is one of the best sets for spell damage in my opinion. It is really underrated. This set gives you a whole lot of spell damage that other sets don't, and this spell damage that you get is straight up spell damage. It applies to everything. Sets like Sun only buff your flame abilities. This applies to all of them. Sets like Spinners only affect your overall damage, but you don't increase your healing done. This, since it gives you just spell damage, it buffs your heals as well as your damage. And then it also buffs the damage that you deal with your light attacks. So sets like Axiom would not buff your light attacks. Since we're using an Inferno Staff on our back bar and we weave in light attacks quite a bit, it is very important that we use sets that buff the damage of those. In addition to all that, it gives you major sorcery at all times, which means you don't need to use Degeneration on your bars, and so you have room for another ability, and we need pretty much all the abilities that we are using. We'll get to that point in a moment. Our next set is Burning Spellweave. We are using this set because it gives you over 500 spell damage every time it procs. It is a huge spell damage buff, and this set, since you have so many flame abilities and it procs off of flame damage, it has such a huge chance to proc pretty much on cooldown. So you have a lot of spell damage buffed at almost all times. Next to our jewelry, we are using 3 infused jewelry pieces with 2 Magicka enchants and 1 spell damage enchant. Since we're using Tri-Stat food, as I will get to in a moment, we need that extra bit of recoveries. But our spell damage enchant with infused is obviously very effective. I don't feel like we need the arcane traits because, like I've mentioned, we're not stacking max Magicka, but rather stacking spell damage instead. Next to our weapons, we are using on the front bar a Rattle Cage Inferno Staff Nirnhound with a weapon damage enchant. The main point of this is we are going to weave in light attacks between our skills very, very often. When I do it, I see on the damage reports afterwards that my light attacks over a whole fight usually get to a higher value than the overall damage I do with Flame Lashes, because I light attack weave all the time and the damage stacks, and the light attacks on their own do quite a bit of damage. On our back bar, we are running an Ice Staff with a Frost enchant and a charged trait. We will get to the enchant and trait in just a moment when I go over the skills, but they have a very, very important use. But the point of an Ice Staff on the back bar is that Ice Staff is almost as useful as a sword and board for your blocking bar. You can block very easily on your back bar. You have the damage reduction, you have the cost reduction to blocking, and blocking efficiency is increased just like with sword and board. It gives you a little bit less tap because you can't enchant your shield if you don't use one, and it doesn't give you some of the passives that you get with the sword and board, but overall I feel like it's very much worth it. We will get to that with our skills in just a moment. So let's start with our front bar skills. We are using Burning Embers. As always, this skill is such a wonderful skill. It deals a lot of damage over time, it's your main dot, and in addition it heals you for 93% of the total damage inflicted when the effect ends, and that includes reapplying the effect. So if you are fighting outnumbered, this is your most reliable heal. The skill costs practically nothing, you can spam it, and you can apply it to multiple targets. Say you fight 3 different targets, you can let this skill keep running on each one of them for 5 to 7 seconds, and when you will recast the skill on them, or when the dot expires, you will get a heal that is worth almost your entire health bar, if not a lot more than it, in the end of the effect, including the reapplying of it. So it is a very, very powerful heal that you get on your front bar if only you keep this dot up on your target, especially on multiple ones, so you get a lot of heals one after the other. Next, Flame Lash. I don't really need to talk about this skill. It is a great skill with great values, great damage, and obviously when the enemy is off balance and you get a Power Lash proc, it is very, very powerful even more. It is your main spammable or damage dealing skill that isn't a dot. Next is Deep Breath. I use this skill for many reasons. I'll go over all of them, but generally it deals quite a bit of damage. The main aspect of this damage, the main part of it that is very important, is it has a delay after 2.5 seconds. You exhale fire, dealing right now unbuffed is 7k flame damage. It gets to a lot higher value when you are fully buffed. The point of this skill is it lets you stack the exhale damage together with a Power Lash or a Flame Lash or even a Leap and deal a lot of damage in one big burst. In addition to that, any enemy hit by the skill that is currently casting is going to be set off balance, which not only helps you proc your full Power Lashes, but also that means that every enemy that is using any channel abilities, be it a Stamsork Dark dealing, or a Mag player using Jesus Beam on you, or even some player trying to res their friend, you can interrupt them without wasting your stamina on bashing, and you set them off balance. It is a very, very powerful skill. In addition to all that, it even heals you for the damage dealt to multiple targets. Next, I'm using Shattering Rocks. I'm not using the Fossilized morph of this skill because I have another source of immobilization, which I will get to on the back bar in just a moment. But it is a really great stun. It locks your enemy even if they are currently roll dodging. It deals some extra damage, and this morph also heals you when the enemy tries to attack you after they broke free. It's a great skill overall. Next, Ellie Drain, one of the best seals in the game, what can I say? It gives your enemies a debuff to their spell resistance of 5.3k, it is huge. If we stack that together with our basic 7.2k spell penetration, it stacks up to a total of 12.5k spell pen. We're not using spinners and steals so much penetration, it is pretty insane. In addition to that, it also gives you extra Magicka back while you deal damage to enemies, so every second you gain that extra 300 Magicka. So if you keep Ellie Drain and one of your dots running on an enemy player, every second for the duration of Ellie Drain, you're gonna get 300 Magicka back to you right away. It makes it so you don't need very high Magicka recovery, and you're still able to sustain very, very easily. Next, Leap. Once again, a very, very powerful skill. It lets you gap close into enemies, deal a massive amount of damage, give you your resources back because you used your ultimate, and the BATTLEROAR passive, which we'll get to in a moment, is very, very effective. And then it deals a massive amount of damage, knocking all your enemies back. It is just a fantastic ultimate for offensive burst. To our back bar, we are using, like last patch, Meditate, Deep Thoughts morph. People think the skill is not very useful. People are wrong. So the general claim is because the skill is interrupted, there is no point in using it. it can be interrupted so very easily, and it really can. But if you think about it, if you can only CC your target, maybe slow them using a blockade, and line of sight just a little bit, you are able to use this skill for 3 or 4 seconds while your enemies try to get to you and bash you. In that period of time, you regen 6 to 8k, both Magicka and Stamina, and it costs you absolutely nothing, and you even healed through that time. It is a very powerful skill. Next, Wings. Wings are currently the most powerful skill Magicka DKs have. If you're not using them on your Magicka DK, I don't know how you even play it, honestly. It reflects 4 projectiles, so all those snipes from stealth and frags from mag swords that are lurking all in the shadows get reflected back at them, keep you moving, keep you alive. And speaking of keeping you moving, you gain immunity to snares and immobilizations for 2 seconds, which means if you are slowed down, if you are rooted, you are able to use this skill, get out of the trouble, and keep mobile all the time. This skill is the reason we don't need Mist Form and don't need Vampirism on this build. Next, Coag. It's a very powerful heal, however it costs 4k Magicka, which is a huge cost. So I personally don't like using it a lot. I use it as my oh shit button. While you're fighting, try to use Burning Embers as much as you can for your heal, and only if you really can't and you're not in a position to use it, then you use Coag. After 1 or 2 casts, you should be in a pretty good state with your health pool and be able to keep fighting. Next is our blockade, and this is the thing that explains so many things about this build. It is why we are not using Fossilized by Shattering Rocks, and it is why we are using an Ice Staff with Charged Trait and Frost Enchant. So, our blockade, what it does is, it deals an area of effect damage on the ground that lasts 8 seconds, and has a huge range. You can look at it, and it's actually even bigger than the visual itself. The range on this skill is insane. And this skill, for such a very low cost, deals damage to all the enemies, reduces their movement speed by 60%, and immobilizes them when they have the shield effect. What that means is, when they have the shield status effect, they are immobilized at the moment, no matter what source caused it. And so on the back bar, we are using a charged trait to increase the chance of the status effect to apply, and then we use the Frost Enchant. And since Blockade is a weapon skill, it procs enchantments on its own. What that means is, when you use Blockade of Frost on an area, even if you swap back to your front bar and keep fighting, Blockade remembers it was cast on your back bar, and it will apply your Frost Enchant on targets within it, on cooldown. And what that would cause is, while you're fighting offensively on your front bar, targets will keep taking immobilizations on them while they're on your blockade. And that is so very powerful, and it lets you deal so many combos and stay on the offense for so long. It lets you manipulate the area when you're fighting outnumbered fights, and it lets you detect Nightblades very easily. This is why this skill is so very powerful, and I wouldn't take it off my bar. Next, Volatile Armor. This is your major ward, major resolve skill. It deals some good damage and has some damage return to incoming projectiles. It's a pretty good skill overall, and it is the skill that you want to keep up on you 100% uptime. It is your main defense skill. I recommend everyone to be using it. Next, Temporal Guard. It is the morph of Undo from the Psychic skill line. We don't really use this ultimate. We only have it on our bar for the passive effect of it. While slotted, gain minor protection, reducing your damage taken by 8%. So while you're on the back bar blocking, moving around and healing, you're going to take 8% less damage from all sources, which is pretty damn huge. This is why we have it, while we only use Leap as our actual ultimate. That is it for the skills. I do want to mention a few things before I move on about our passives. So first, and most importantly, BATTLEROAR. This is what the build is named after. This passive lets you sustain yourself so very easily without recoveries. You can use Leap very frequently since you have an insane ult generation from Bloodspawn. And when you use your Leap, you're going to get a massive amount of Magicka stamina and health back right to you, and you can use it over and over again. The passive have no cooldown. As soon as you can use your ultimate, you can regen yourself very easily. With that, and with the Tri-Stat potion that we are using, we're able to sustain fairly easily and have a great build like this that doesn't require a lot of recoveries. Next, on our Destro skill line, we are not using the Tri-Focus passive. That is because it would make our blocking on our back bar cost Magicka instead of stamina, and we don't want that to happen because we would like our Magicka to be used for our healing and damaging skills, while our stamina is our main source of blocking, wall dodging, and all of our movement, really, breaking free, etc. Next to our racial passives, those have changed in the last patch, but mainly for the better. We now have spell damage increased by 300, which is pretty huge, and it helps us with our weapon, or with our spell damage stack, which overall benefits us quite a bit, and our overall damage, even though we lost our 7% flame damage, our overall damage is almost the same. as well as the dynamic new passive gives us a lot of stamina as well. It seems like only 2k, but with the way CP scales now and the way that your max stats now scale, it actually helps us reach our huge value of 19k max stamina. Resist Flame is pretty much the same as it was before, increases the resistance to flame and gain immunity to the burning status effect. It is a pretty good passive, but not much to mention here. Next, to our Mundus. I have changed my Mundus since the last patch. Last patch I was using the Steed Mundus for the movement speed in open world, and honestly I am still using it quite a lot. Currently I'm using the Apprentice. I'm using it to stack even more spell damage. It helps our value reach such great places with our overall 4.5k spell damage, even more than that, because this 2.400 spell damage from this boon is increased by a lot of other parts of our build, like the major sorcery, that is percentage increase on top of this spell damage, and overall it just helps us stack our spell damage to much higher values. However, in open world the mobility is very important, and so I still use the Steed Mundus every now and then. So I still can't decide which one I like better. You guys can check it out for yourselves, but I figured I'd mention both of those so you guys can make the decision on your own. Next, to our potions, we are using the Tri-Stat potions, as I've mentioned, for our recoveries and to gain all our stats back. I don't feel like I need the immovability potions. They're still good, I still use them sometimes, but they only last 10 seconds, and I feel like the stamina I gain back from Essence of Health here, which is the Tri-Stat potion, is very much more worth it. For our food, we are using the Tri-Stat food, which I recommend for everyone to be using in builds like this. We don't need the extra Magicka recovery, so no point in running the Witch Mother's Brew. So we're just getting straight up stats, all of our stats, and it is pretty great because our max health and max stamina are insanely high compared to our previous build in the last patch. Next, to our CP, I'm going to just run through them very quickly, but you guys feel free to stop the video at any point and see every tree. Lastly, I'm going to show you guys the spell damage when it is fully buffed. We're going to find some targets and start by applying Burning Spellweave to them. As soon as it is applied, we are going to use our enchant, and you can see that our spell damage reaches over 4.5k. That is a pretty insane value. And yeah, this is the point of this build, stacking your spell damage to the highest it can possibly be. So that is it with the build, you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I very much hope that you like the build and would like to use it yourselves on your Magicka DKs. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment sections down below, or join my Discord server. I am always available to answer your questions, and if you have any inquiries about Magicka DKs, my build, or anything in general, I'll be very happy to help. You can reach that Discord server through the description or the comment section. I'm going to make sure to pin the address. Also, I have recently started streaming, so I would very much appreciate it if you guys come and check out my stream. The link will be down below in the description as well. And yeah, come chill with me and have fun. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you had a great time, enjoyed this build, and have a great day and a great life. I'll see you all in the next one.
Brick and mortar, blood and water, going harder, fire starter, freaking nature, minor major, never falter. There's a rumble in the jungle, I ain't running for my life. They say winners never quit, cause how else would I get the prize? Need a trophy, yeah I want it, they can't wait to reach the summit. They can't even see it coming, this ain't a threat, it's a promise. I've been floating like a butterfly, that's word up to Muhammad. Time for blowing up atomic, hey yeah. That's how you know I'm a fighter. I push through the pain, rise from the flames. That's how you know I'm a fighter. You won't see me quit, no I'm not giving in. That's how you know I'm a all my dogs can smell the fear. If you ain't ready for the belly, why you even coming here? They've been waiting for the end before the game even begins. And I've been fighting for my soul, for my family, for my friends. I ain't never giving up, cause every day this world spins, and every day that clock ticks till we're all gone with a win. Now I'm taking off these gloves, it's too late to play pretend. They might try to knock me out, but I'ma win. That's how you know I'm a fighter. I push through the pain, rise from the flames. That's how you know I'm a fighter. You won't see me quit, no, I'm not giving in. That's how you know I'm a down, they ain't getting in my way. Even though I might get down, they ain't getting in my way. Even though I might get down, they ain't getting in my way. They ain't getting in my way. That's how you know I'm a fighter. I push through the pain, rise from the flames. That's how you know I'm a fighter. You won't see me quit, no, I'm not giving in. That's how you know I'm a fighter. I push through the pain, rise from the flames. That's how you know I'm a fighter. You won't see me quit, no, I'm not giving in. That's how you know I'm a fighter. 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 Fighter.
Fight through fire and pain.